Welcome to the Sports Wrap. You remember George Ringer? We took a week off. What'd you do for fun while we were gone?
Besides listening to a lot of blues, I watched some football games.
Yeah.
And there was some pretty interesting preseason games because there were some kids out there playing that last year were playing in college.
Sure.
And they looked pretty good.
Yeah. Are you talking specifically about the Vikings or others?
I'm talking about some other ones. I'm talking about our boy Lance and Justin Fields. Some pretty good playing there, and it's.
Did you find it interesting that Shanahan, right, San Francisco's head coach, would not name a starter? They kind of pressured him.
No,
and he left it open. So, man, your boy Trey, our boy Trey, if you want. No,
yeah.
I still think he was overdrafted, but we can talk about that another day. So.
Well, we can, but when I saw him play, he plays with the same kind of reckless abandon and the same confidence that he played when he was at NDSU. And you would expect that taking that next step, because it's a big step, and he's still a young guy, that he is fearless out there, and it's a little bit. I mean, he can get picked off, and he did, but
I'm gonna do some comparison shopping on this. So bear with me, everybody. Kellen Mond from the Vikings, who was drafted out of Texas A&M, right?
Yes.
And did you hear what Zimmer said about him after week one? That he's got to go in and take command of the huddle and everything else, and maybe he was a little too loose for Mike Zimmer's taste. So I didn't really watch the game on Saturday night, and I definitely didn't watch it while Kellen Mond was in. But having said all that, I did speak to somebody who watched, and they said when they showed Kellen Mond in the huddle, it was all business. There was no screwing around. There was no loosey-goosey. There was no whatever.
They're going to keep,
So I say all that because is there a comparison about being? There's a fine line between being too loose, playing grab butt, as we used to say when we were coaches, and staying loose and playing to your abilities.
No, I think that Lance definitely. I mean, Trey was just, you wouldn't been able to tell the difference between what he did the last year at North Dakota State or now. It's just, he's just out there, he's playing the game. I can't but help draw the analogy with Patrick Mahomes. And when you take a look at Trey, he's a big boy. And he can take some of those hits and stuff. He's a little bit different kind of athlete than, say, Justin Fields, who relies on, like, some of the rest of those guys, his speed and his running ability. I mean, he ran 4 times for almost 50 yards.
Okay.
And that's going to make a difference in that Chicago football team, no doubt about it. That being said,
I guess I see Justin Fields being the guy there, but
the Vikings will keep 2 quarterbacks, and Munn's going to be one of them, and Mr. Cousins will be the first, and that's where they'll go with that. I'm not so sure that they won't stuck somebody over on the practice squad or something, because it's always nice to have
they're going to need a third body there just in case.
Yeah. This I got the 53-man Viking roster projection.
Okay.
And so there's everything that you ever need to know about this. I mean, everything that you need to know is right in this right here.
So what am I going to be surprised at? Who is not on that projected 53-man roster for the Vikings?
It's really kind of amazing because I think that Amir Abdullah is playing his butt off. He played really well the other night. He can help you on kickoffs, on punts, all kinds of special team stuff. I mean, this guy really gives what for, and as near as I can figure out, he's the number 1 back that they can swap because, and I don't understand this, but they're going to take 2 or 3 guys to fill all the positions that he's able to. And so I really, after watching Saturday night, I'd really hate to see them cut him, and they have him staying, but
the prognosticators or whatever are pretty high on some other guys.
Oh, they are.
That are running backs for the Vikings.
Oh, yeah. McGonagall is a nice, big, strong guy. And I'll tell you, other than that, they got Cook, Madison, C.J.
Is Dalvin Cook still on the team? Because I don't think I've seen 33 on the field yet.
Well, he's saving himself, and it's but he will.
I joke.
And that gives a chance for Abdullah to get into the game and to play, and for CJ to do his incredible blocking. I mean, if CJ Ham is not the best blocking back well, there aren't very many left.
There aren't many left. You're right.
But those guys, they just move back when he's there. So they're going to keep him because Dalvin Cook loves him. They're going to keep 6 receivers.
Are you concerned about Adam Thielen and his thigh injury?
No. It's a deep thigh bruise and that. But I mean, this guy's pretty tough, and he might miss a game, or he might, take a couple of whirlpools and get some massages, but he's going to be fine.
Are you worried about your boy JJ? Justin Jefferson? Are you more concerned about him than you are about Thielen?
Well, I am more concerned about him because we're putting an awful lot of cards on his table, and we got to have those wide receivers.
You're wondering if he's going to have the sophomore slump.
Well, boy, I tell you, if he can go in a slump with the amount of talent that he has, he'll still probably be just right.
I don't suspect that it's going to happen, but he is definitely going to garner more attention.
Oh, yes.
This year than he did last year.
Yes.
Defenses will be concerned about Mr. Jefferson.
No, I agree. Tight ends, they're going to have 3 of them. Irv Smith, Tyler Conklin, and Brandon Dillon, and they got to have tight ends on this team.
Yeah, they want to run the football.
You're going to run the football. You got to have.
They could have all 3 of those guys on the field at the same time a lot. If I know what they're thinking.
Here's where some surprises might come on the offensive line. Dakota Dozier might get cut. Drew Sami, Cole Cabral, Kyle Hinton, Zach Bailey, and Everett Ezruzowski, which I think is a great name for a football player. So right now, we don't have a left tackle, and that's a concern because
usually that's the number 1 position that you make sure that you have to protect your quarterback.
And Darisaw is out. And so they really don't have somebody to. I mean, if you have a second left tackle, you are rolling in clover, and right now they don't have one. So I think that that's a legitimate concern. On defensive line, they got Emil Griffin or Emerson Griffin.
What? Can you tell me? Can you tell me why? Because we seem to be so high. Well, on the rest of our defensive line,
maybe because
why is it necessary to bring this old Emerson Griffin guy back for a 3rd try?
He got 6 sacks in 12 games last year. That's one of the reasons. Yeah, and see, so they're going to bring him in. They're going to give him a look, and you know something? If he ever gets his head on straight, he and Hunter could just dominate that line, and and they have some other surprises too, but I think they're going to keep him.
To me, the interior of the defensive line is where we're going to see the most improvement.
I think so.
With Pierce and the rest of the guys there, I think that's where we're going to. Last year we couldn't stop anybody because we couldn't stop the run, which means you couldn't stop the pass because you tried to stack the box with more guys to stop the run. And then you give up all the passing, and so it does start up front. A lot of people want to throw the cornerbacks and everybody under the bus. When you're out there on an island all by yourself, every play it makes things pretty difficult. So
well,
I think the Vikes will be able to play a little more of what they want to play with the 2 deep zone and
I think so
else,
too. So. And the linebackers, I know my friend Anthony Barr is a little buggered up, but Troy Dye. I mean, the Vikings have scored 1 touchdown in 2 games, and it's come on defense. And Troy Dye did it on a 33-yard little prance in the end zone.
So before we get away from that point, does that put up a big red flag for you that the offense cannot seem to put the ball in the end zone?
Yes, that is the great big flag that pops up. That's for sure. So the defense is playing pretty good football right now, and we had a right to be concerned about that because towards the end of last year, they weren't very good.
See, we didn't get to discuss the whole Denver 33-6 thing. See, here's what bugs me about that 33-6 thing. We practiced against them for 2 days prior to playing them in a game on a couple Saturdays ago. So it would seem to me that as a coach, if you were watching the other side of the ball, you'd be going, oh, Denver wants to do this, 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 and this. And we couldn't seem to stop this,
and they're filming everything. They see it anyway.
And so I understand we didn't play any of our starters, but you would think with a scheme where you say, well, geez, we see these guys for 2 days in a row, you would feel pretty confident, cocky. I mean, the whole fact that we only scored 6 points against Denver didn't bother me a whole bunch because they probably saw every play that we wanted to run the 2 days before we played them. So that didn't bother me. The fact that we didn't score we only scored 3 points basically on offense on Saturday, that concerns me. And I don't know. And I understand you don't want to show your cards. Okay, you don't want to show your big stuff.
Well, the concern for me is that offense. It's a great combo offense. They have a great running game, but they also have to throw the football. And we've had wide receivers that have contributed immensely to their games the last couple of years.
I think one of the things that I think everyone who watched this show would say that we talked about last fall with the Vikings or last winter was their lack of wanting to throw the ball deep. You know, I'll use a basketball analogy. Even if I'm a point guard who scores 1 point a game, every once in a while I've got to throw up a 3-pointer just to keep the defense honest.
Well, Kirk Cousins was 5 for 7 for 24 yards. Well, 5 for 7 is great. 24 yards just doesn't cut it. Well,
we're agreeing on this point.
Yeah.
You've got to send it deep. And even in the preseason, I still think you put Thielen or Jefferson out on the one side and you let them run deep. Are you giving anything away?
No.
I don't think you're getting anything
Nothing.
away. Let me see if Kirk can air it out. Of course, he said he wants to play Friday at Kansas City so that he gets to play with some crowd noise, and I suspect that they're going to get a chance to play because they don't have things figured out yet, and they better. And they got a new offensive coordinator, so
that's a big one right there too.
They need to get things figured out.
Oh no, and I mean, and if he can coordinate that offense and get something sprinting, and they'll be looking. So
they will be looking.
I mean, that coaching staff right now is on the edge. It has to produce this year, and I mean, when you see Coach Zimmer, they asked him, we don't remember the last time in your career you've not lost 2 preseason games in a row. He was not happy with it. Oh yeah? I don't remember things like that. Well, I'll say no. You do remember things like that. He does.
He doesn't want to repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Mike Zimmer's backside is a lot more tighter than a lot of other coaches because he knows it's only going to take a bad start. Go 0-3, and he might be looking for a job. So, yeah absolutely.
No, I take a look at my other. This is. But I do know that the favorite son of Marshall, Minnesota, is walking pretty tall these days, and he should. He's playing well, and the team. How do you know a rookie's doing when the team around him responds? And they just did. And I'll tell you the other thing. He has a bullet still. He has a terrific bullet, and he streamed that thing right down the middle of the field and towards the end of the end zone, and there was nobody that could stop it. There was nothing that anybody could do about it. And so he has some legitimate skills. I see a real terrific career for this guy.
Now we're 3 weeks away from the opening Sunday, so we're going to see. Like I said, we're going to see some preseason games, and then we're going to have 2 weeks off. So we'll see.
Yeah. Now, whether or not they're going to start him over Garoppolo, I would have a hard time seeing that, but
I would guess if Garoppolo gets to start, the leash is going to be very short. That would be my guess.
Yeah, there's just, it's what a bad thing to have is two fantastic quarterbacks in your team. Live with it.
I found this interesting. If I can transition here, as long as we're talking about quarterbacks. So Ohio State named their starting quarterback the other day. Did you realize that they only have 2 sophomore and 2 freshman quarterbacks on the roster?
Well,
how does Ohio State, who is all world whatever, how do they end up with? Well, how does that work?
I can't remember what the kid's name is now, but he was one of the highest recruited high school athletes around. He's a redshirt freshman, so he's coming back for a little bit more. He wasn't going to beat out Justin Fields. No. There was no way that was going to happen. But it's like half of what Ohio State is they have is this this karma type thing, like. We're the Ohio State. We have the quarterback. We have the defensive end. We have the stuff. You take that away, and they're just a football team. And so
all the ticket for those Gophers.
I'm just saying is they can't look upon this young kid. They have to take a look upon him as a redshirted freshman. He's not a senior. He's not a Heisman Trophy candidate. He is just a redshirted freshman, and they have to bring these great big, heavy-duty defensive linemen that they have working right now to bear. And if they can do that in the first quarter, they got a chance to beat this team.
Mr. Optimism over here for the Golden Gopher football season to start. It's only about 10 days away from when we record this, so next week we'll know a whole lot more, and we'll see if everybody's healthy and ready to go.
The defensive coordinator was on a podcast, and they asked him, "Are you preparing for Ohio State?" And he says, "No, we're still working on the individual, the basics." He says, "We're not really concerned about Ohio State." And I also thought, I don't believe that a minute. There's people up there viewing film, taking apart film, analyzing this stuff.
As far as running like Ohio State plays on the field or running Ohio State defenses, they probably aren't quite doing that yet. But I would say by the time people watch this, they will be. Because if you can get a few extra days to prepare for Ohio State, you take advantage of it.
Well, you do, and this is the biggest home game that I can remember opening season. I mean,
well, yeah, because you usually open with some FCS or some mid-major.
And I just did a little looking at the next game is Miami of Ohio. Now, Miami of Ohio is a very good football team, and that's a trap game. That's what they call a trap game, and they're going to go in there.
Especially if we win. Especially if we beat Ohio State.
Especially if we beat Ohio State, they're going to, Miami of Ohio.
After that is a trap game, I feel.
I think if we did that, Miami of Ohio would probably cheer us. But it's Minnesota.
Miami of Ohio. Anybody who's playing Ohio State is their favorite team.
Oh yeah. There's no two ways about that.
No doubt about that.
Anyway, if there's anything else you want to.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to talk more football, obviously.
Yes, we are.
Because college football does get started this weekend. I think there were 4 games out there that I saw. I see some high school football get started this week, a week in the 0 week. So I have to be honest, I'm so focused in on what's coming up for me with the tunnel vision of radio and what we're doing. First volleyball game on Thursday night, the Bass Championship. If I can get to the end of the weekend without losing, we'll be all right. So
I think that's the way that this fall is going to go. If I can get only to Saturday morning, I'll be okay.
We'll be okay.
We'll be okay.
So it's getting to be that time. You can the football is in the air.
It is.
I got to watch a little bit of the Vikings, the first series or two, while I was eating supper at the bar in my hometown on Saturday night for the Meadowlands Fair that we had a pretty good time at. And went down and enjoyed that. And so I was watching from a distance on a TV far away, and I was getting a little jazzed. I was ready to go. I'm ready for football, folks. Let's get it started.
I put my dog out the other day. It was 4:30 in the morning. It was 45 degrees. You could smell football in the air. You got to have that little bit of Christmas. And the way we've been cooking, that Christmas felt pretty good. I know as a player, I certainly would have liked to have it a little cooler.
Much better day to be practicing today. Before we leave football, I want to make sure I mentioned that my Bombers were 2-0. Unfortunately, lost to Toronto over the weekend, 30-23. So the Bombers are 2-1, the defending Grey Cup champs. I'm going to keep saying that as many times as I can.
You good? You like those guys?
I like the Bombers, and I would love to think that I could get up to Canada this fall, and as long as I can go across and get my COVID test, that maybe I can run up and watch a Bombers game. That'd be a good trip.
It's not that far away.
And as long as we're talking about Canada, we found out that the Ontario high school sports said they're going to hold all their championships. So it looks like some musky hockey and football and volleyball and basketball. Hopefully they'll be able to get together and start playing some games. They didn't get to play any.
Yeah, that had to drive me crazy.
So I'm sure they'll be looking forward to that and getting some things done. So anyway, where do we want to go next?
Let's see here. The Raiders will demand proof of vaccination in order to get in to see their games.
In Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas.
Okay.
That's I think the first team that I've seen that's required that. But
I think I mentioned to you, not on the show, but mentioned to you that like up in Winnipeg and in the Canadian stadiums, you have to prove that you are double vaccinated before you get you get to sit in the stadium. So we're going to see more of it.
Yeah. Oh, there's no two ways about it. Let's see here. Lynx. Tell me about the Lynx.
We're going to talk about Minnesota basketball.
Yeah.
The Lynx had a tough go of it.
They did.
They won their first game out of the break, and everything looked good. And then they went out and played Connecticut. Yeah. And Connecticut, one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference of the WNBA. And they beat the Lynx twice. And our head coach, Cheryl Reeves, she was a little unhappy.
Something about free throws.
Something about free throws. In 2 games, they shot 17 free throws. Now, you might recall, folks, that on a show earlier this year, the Lynx actually won a game in which they shot 0 free throws.
Oh, I remember that.
They had a game earlier this year, first WNBA team ever to win a game shooting 0 free throws. So there's this precedent set where the Lynx don't shoot many free throws. So they lost to one of the best teams in Connecticut, on the road, the whole business. Okay. Then they go to Chicago on Saturday night, and they they shoot 33 free throws in one game. After shooting 17 and 2, they shot 33 free throws. I think they were trying to prove a point.
I think they
went inside. There was a lot of dribble penetration. The best part was they won 101-95, and they get Seattle on Tuesday night, which is Seattle probably the best team in the WNBA. So we'll find out.
Well, with just the disastrous start that they have, they lost 4 games. If you take that away, and you take away last weekend, with Connecticut, you got a pretty good team here.
They've got a nice team.
They do have a nice team.
I think they put the other teams on alert, and it's going to be a fun run here. I don't know exactly when the playoffs start. They've got 23 games in. There's about 10 more to go. So let's say a month away, and we'll find out where they're going to sit for the playoffs. And I'm excited. I think they can make a run.
Yeah.
NBA schedule came out. Timberwolves actually got a happy nudge from the NBA. Usually they start with a home, the NBA throws them a token home game, and then they send them out to the West Coast for about 4 or 5 games so that they can come back and play their second home game like 1 and 5.
Didn't they do that last year?
Something like that last year. So this year they get 3 at home, then they go play Milwaukee, and then they come home for 4. So the Timberwolves got 7 of 8 of their first 8 at home, so I'm hoping it'd be nice to get a good start. They get to play against teams that were pretty much not in the playoffs last year. Houston, New Orleans. Like I said, they do get Milwaukee, but I think out of their first 8 games, I think like 6 of them were against non-playoff opponents from non-playoff teams from last year. So, hey, Timberwolves should get a good start. Maybe we can get once you get that snowball rolling in the right direction.
Well, it does. All the pundits are keeping on saying that, why did the Timberwolves not improve their lot from year to year? And they're saying the story was today, the worst 5 trades that the Timberwolves ever made. Well, I just like, where do you even start? And it's,
Well, and I know this is water under, over, through the bridge, whatever it is. But we go back to Joe Smith back in whatever it was, and when the NBA basically put the death penalty on the Timberwolves for what McHale did, we talk about SMU getting the death penalty back in the 80s. Nobody will ever get the slap on the wherever. Yeah. Think of the worst part of your body where you could get slapped, folks. And that's what the NBA did to the Timberwolves, went way overboard, and the Timberwolves spent years and years and years and years trying to recover from the fact that they had to give up 4 first-round picks. They never
recovered from that.
And so how do you recover, how do you put a franchise together when you take 4 or 5 years away from them? And like I said, I've got good excuses. The Timberwolves are going to come back around. There's no doubt about it.
There were times they played really well last year, and it's just like I thought it was Ricky Rubio, but that's just me.
Well, and this team has changed. I mean, they've got Patrick Beverley since the last time we spoke. They got rid of Juan Hernan Gomez and Jared Culver, who they drafted with the 6th overall pick in 2019. So when you look at that trade, they had to give something up. Beverly's 33 years old. That's a concern. But you bring a guy in who played with the Clippers. I think it's a good move.
I think it is too.
I'm not saying Culver was done. Culver still might turn out to be a decent ball player. Had injuries last year. But I think this was a good move by the Wolves. And
well, everything NBA basketball is making a transition as well. I mean, you have to take a look. I know this is going to be a shock to anybody, but LeBron James is not going to play forever. And
did you see LeBron was a little upset this past week? He got no votes as one of the best players in the NBA. No votes.
No votes.
He was mad.
Well,
LeBron, you're still good, but I don't know if you're the most feared player in the NBA anymore.
There's some really incredible basketball players in that league. Half of them come from Europe now.
And I understand LeBron's good. Everybody says he's the best player on the planet. He probably was the best player on the planet for many years. I don't think he is anymore. Just saying. You LeBron fans out there, don't be hating me. Okay?
No, me neither.
Don't be doing anything bad to me.
Anyway, go for basketball.
We've got Gopher basketball news. What happened this week?
Farrell Payne became partners with Braden Carrington of Park Center, and they both committed to the University of Minnesota for the 22. Well,
we'll see if they change their minds between now and 2022.
They can change their minds.
They could.
I guess Carrington was instrumental in talking Payne into doing this, and these kids know each other because they play basketball AAU all summer long, so they know each other very well, and they're just taking a look and saying, here we got Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson's starting to do a sales job, and it takes a while. It just doesn't,
Oh yeah, he couldn't do a very good sales job on keeping the kids that were Patino buddies, and like I said, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Of course, they had an injury here. The guy that came from Northern State,
Sioux Falls.
I can't think of his name right now, but anyway, he's done for the season with a blown knee, and that's too bad.
Well, I mean, the way they were talking about him down in Sioux Falls, he was the second best thing to come in a long, long time, and just a top shelf character, great student.
Yeah.
one of those guys that I never was. So it happens like that. But I think that this is a good start. They'd be lucky to come out with any skin at all at the end of this year. But you got to build it from somewhere, and it takes 5 years. Now the problem that we have now is that we don't know how long kids are going to last. I mean, when you take a look at who played quarterback for football teams last year and where they're playing this year, it's an entirely different deal. And it's, and PK Fleck, what did he need? He needed a kicker. So what does he do? Well, he goes and gets the Mid-America Conference Special Teams Player of the Year and says, here, you got another year, you want to come to the university. And so this is becoming more like a draft than it is a recruitment. And, I understand the reality of it. It's just a little bit strange.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
And of course, before you got me thinking about new things in college. I saw a tweet the other day that Heaven Hamling from Grand Rapids, she was the first female athlete from North Dakota State to cash in on the NIL, on the licensure, name and image licensing. So I didn't see what kind of money she was looking at, but she was able to make some ching and get out there and do those things.
I hate to bring it up, but Chip Scoggins had an article in the Minneapolis paper about ching, and that's charitable gambling and how it affects sports. And it's no small thing.
It's one of George's new passions, this charitable gambling thing.
I'm all in favor.
As long as he wins, of course.
I do.
Yeah.
The state last year, nearly $100 million in net receipts on lawful gambling, a figure more than double that of 2010. So what we're doing is and I have no problem with charitable gambling for the most part. There's 183 youth sports associations, and they make up the largest percentage of total sales of any of Minnesota nonprofits. They take up 30%. What they're saying is they're no longer given 50-50 draws, or they're no longer going for fundraisers in any form. This is a good, consistent way of doing it, and it surrounds White Bear and Blaine, and these people are getting millions of dollars for their sports program. There's very little right now. There is very little fraudulent things going on in terms of the money, but the potential, because this is all cash, you have to have a pretty good manager to make sure that everything stays above board, and the people that they get these are true professionals. They're just not a mom and dad outfit anymore.
Yeah, I look at near where I grew up, Southridge, Elbrook. They have always had pull tabs as one of their main fundraisers, and they were always ahead of the curve in the equipment and things that they had as a school, compared to many of the other schools their size that are around them.
Well,
so what I'm saying is, to me, and I know some people have an issue with high school kids profiting their programs getting better off of people gambling, and there's very few kids that can afford the outright cost of playing, say, hockey. Yeah. It's a very expensive thing, and what's expensive about it? The equipment's not that expensive. No, but when you're paying tens of thousands of dollars for ice time, and it's like Apple Valley Hockey Association. They put a dry land facility up, a skating treadmill, and a rapid shot system that cost $100,000, and they were able to do that. That's nothing. White Bear Lake did it. And they put up two of them of the same kind. So these guys are, people love doing the pull tabs. I think they like the fact that it's going to kids and all the rest of that. 85% of all the boxes that go are sent out to winners. We like that percentage. Yes, we do.
And so, and the rest of it, it says like they get like 3 cents on the dollar. But 3 cents for every one of those pull tabs turns into tens of thousands of dollars, and so I I think that people should just be aware, and it's not just hockey either. It's baseball and some volleyball sports and wrestling. I mean, there's a lot of people that have associations that are doing it. There are a number of sports associations that are not doing it because they number one, they're small. It would take an awful lot of work to get through the bureaucracy. Who wants to do it? Good idea. Who wants to do it? You know, so they back off from at that point. So, but there's an awful lot of money being spent out here, and also like one lady said, there are about 250,000 people in the state of Minnesota that have a gambling habit, and you're feeding into that. They call this cardboard crack because you just can't get enough, and that was in the article of Scoggins.
Yeah. You know, I get it. I understand what people are saying, but the problem is, and here's where I'm going to go with this. As we sit here at the Rainier Muni, I can see the Minnesota Lottery machine right here, the lotto games that you can play. You can get a $1 card, a 2, a 3, a 5, a 10, and a 20, and a 50 I can see over on the far side. So some people like to take games a chance. Some people, you know, I would call myself a very casual gambler. I like to do it every once in a while. It's not something that I feel compulsed to do. But I guess if I had my choice, and don't anybody take this the wrong way, if I was going to give it to the Minnesota Lottery, or I was going to go over here,
the Rainier Rec Fund, one of my favorite funds.
Support rec hockey or rec sports or whatever it is. To me, I know where I would be spending my money. So I don't feel so bad when I know that it's going to the kids. I think we mentioned that, and that's just something that I think is the right way of thinking.
Well, no, and at this point in time, we're awfully dependent on this. If this were to be pulled, there would be no way that any of these sports associations could continue their revenue. They would not have any money and be able to do this stuff, especially ice time and stuff like that. That's very expensive. It just is.
It is.
Anyway, that was
gambling anonymous meeting here.
I wasn't trying to make any judgment. I was just trying to state the facts that this is how we're paying for a lot of our kids' sports. And I love kids in sports. I love kids' sports, period, like you. But the question is asked, should they be dependent on a source called gambling? And it's a real live question. It's something that would be debated. You and I would vote yes. But
well, to me, I understand. I understand people's concerns about supporting the kids with gambling, but there are other, to me, worse things that we could be supporting kids with. But at the same time, would we prefer to be able to take care of some of these kids and let them have good stuff, good equipment, to be able to play safely, to play the right way? I'll say it this way: maybe that coach that volunteers and gives a little of their time, maybe we could grease the wheels a little bit. Maybe give them $500 for showing up and doing those kinds of things.
They have to manage it. In fact, the big ones have professionals doing it. They have to, and these are accountants. And
but what I'm saying is we should be giving some of the money to these coaches rather than saying, hey, mom or dad, you should just be giving up your time. How about we use a little bit of that money that was raised?
You know, I mean, I coached wrestling for a long time, and I got a lot of donations, and I welcomed each one with enthusiasm. And it's I remember one time sitting out at the Holiday Inn. It was Holiday Inn then. And a guy won a whole bunch of money, and he says, this was for the Hockey Association. And he says, doesn't anybody have a wrestling program around here? I says, yeah. He laid $500 on me, and this was a long time ago. Here, this is because we're from wrestling country, and they didn't want to give it to the hockey. So they give it to me.
Yeah, I'm going back to the coaches getting paid. I'm not worried about who's managing it and whatever else. I'm talking about the guys and gals that are out there giving the time, going to practices, taking care of people's kids. watching so that they get things done safely. You know, a lot of people think that, well, it's okay if you volunteer those hours every day.
On top of that, it's not only the coaches, but the officials as well.
Yeah.
You know, they're very underpaid, and so yeah, you want professional people. You want professional people in the classroom. You want professional people out in all your civil service jobs. This is kind of, I mean, hey, you remember good officials too.
Absolutely. Want to talk a little baseball?
Let's talk a little baseball.
Well, baseball, the Twins.
Well,
since we last spoke, they beat. Well, I think they just gotten done beating the AL West Astros, and then they beat the White Sox, the AL leaders in the Central. And then they took down Tampa Bay 2 out of 3, and then they beat
Cleveland.
Cleveland, thank you. And then
they went to New York.
Then we decided to go to New York and pull our normal New York Yankee.
Well, what's this curse?
Our leg thing.
What's this curse? I mean, 9 straight games we've lost there?
You know, here's. I was watching Thursday night's game. Justin Morneau was doing color for the Twins. He says there were only 2 times ever that I was nervous having an at-bat in my life. So you're talking about a guy who's played baseball for years and years.
Yeah.
He says, one of them was not my first at-bat in the majors. But one of them was the first time I had an at-bat at Yankee Stadium.
Oh my.
And I'm like, no wonder these people pee down their leg when they walk into Yankee Stadium.
Exactly.
He was nervous about his first at-bat at Yankee Stadium, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad he can admit it, but I'm stunned. Because I go play football at UND, I should play differently, I should feel differently, or in the Metrodome, just for a regular game, I mean, not even a playoff game. That stunned me a little bit. That made me.
You got Wrigley, you got Fenway, and you got Yankee Stadium, and Yankee is a brand new one. But still, the mystique of this is still the house that Ruth built, and Fenway and Wrigley, you don't have to bring anything up there.
Ruth stood in all those other ones. A lot of those.
Oh, he did too.
I mean, that's the thing that about it. If you're going to get nervous about because it's where all these greats played, well then you're going to get nervous everywhere. You're going to So it stunned me a little bit. But the Twins lost 3 to the Yankees, kind of brought back down to earth. But Jorge, holy cow!
Yeah, he was
3 walk-offs in 4 games.
Yeah, he's really playing well. I was glad for Hurricane Fred. It kind of like spared us. So they took off to Boston, and the Hurricane went with them. I'm not sure they'll even play tonight.
Yeah, they're not scheduled to play tonight. They'll actually play on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, but it's. Hey, you got out of New York.
So why? What do you feel is the difference on why the Twins are playing better?
I think you have. Well, I'm not really sure, but there's some people that they have coming up that are I mean, they're talking about. I mean, they paid an awful lot of money to have Donaldson at third, and he's a very good baseball player. But they got this kid coming over from St. Paul that's hitting about 350, and he's just smacking the heck out of the turnip. And I think that this kind of enthusiasm is coming into this team. And there are no superstars left in this time, with the exception of Jorge. You know.
What I want you to try to explain to me why the bullpen, who was horrendous for the first 95 games, all of a sudden found their legs. What's the difference?
I really don't understand the pitching staff at all. All the starters that were going to come out here at the end of this, we knew we were going to the World Series, and if we could get a little help from the bullpen. Now, you know, the starters are having a heck of a time, and the bullpen's coming in. I mean, in the 3rd and 4th inning. And working the rest of the games, and they're pitching well. Yeah.
I got to give Bailey Ober and Griffin Jackson some attaboys while we're taking down the starting pitching. Kenta Maeda may be hurt. He had an MRI and whatever else going on. So at this time, I haven't heard anything more on that. But I will say that Jackson Ober have pitched, I think, above their pay grade. I think we're going to see these pitchers that we picked up from Toronto.
Well, Ober's a perfect example of this kind of enthusiasm that they bring in. I mean, what did he do? He got a home run. it's just pitchers don't do that.
Yeah, so like I said, I see good things coming. Hey, try to build something towards next year and see what happens. So.
Oh, I don't think that they have any choice, and I'll tell you, I mean, Nelson Cruz and Barrios and all the rest of these guys. I have never been on a team yet where there wasn't somebody willing to come in and take their place. And they're going to find them. There are some young kids out there. This is a generational change, and as much as I like Nelson Cruz for his age and experience, there's some people that are popping. We got a pitcher out in California that hits home runs like that.
I was going to say, before we got to Shohei, I was going to say Byron Buxton may be in the lineup by the end of the week, so that'd be a good sign. And yeah, Shohei hit his 40th, and then threw 8 innings, had 8 strikeouts. Not too shabby.
No.
Do you want to talk at all about Jack Morris and what he did? Or?
I think that Jack Morris is sometimes, and I think in his career he was like this. He gets a little bit too full of himself, and he gets a little bit cocky, and at that point in time he gets a little bit dumb. And it's I've seen him cross the border, and I mean I'm Jack Morris, and I mean when he was pitching for the Twins, nobody liked Jack Morris more than I did. And I remember the 7th game of the World Series, and I remember what it was like for him to be a hero. But
an unfortunate.
We're beyond that stuff now.
You think about it. If you listen to it, what was it? 1.5 second, 2 second. What he said. That would be 2 seconds that Jack would like to take back, because it's amazing how quickly. I don't think he'll ever work for the Tigers again.
He might not. Yeah.
I don't know if this will end his color commentating career, but it's amazing how quickly everything can disappear.
Yeah.
Everything you've worked for, and all of a sudden you make a comment like that, and it's over.
It happens that quick, and I mean, and it's because there's so many people listening. I mean, you have an audience, and if you're going to be bigoted, you can't last in anywhere like that.
Wyatt Ulrich, let's change to something a little more positive.
Yes,
got the Canaries shirt on.
Isn't that a nasty looking canary?
That is a nasty looking canary.
Yeah.
So had a little tough stretch.
He did.
A week and a half or so ago. I think went 0 for 19 at one point, but he's kind of come back around. He's got the average right at about 350 right now.
357, I believe, was the one yesterday.
He was near 400 for a long time there. That's pretty tough to sustain.
Yeah.
But the season nearly coming to an end for the Sioux Falls Canaries. So White keep the nose to the grindstone and get those last couple of weeks in and. Keep us proud. We are.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I never wore a Canary shirt before. Never even heard of them.
Anything else baseball-wise that you want to?
We're getting down to the groove here, and I take a look down there. San Francisco's 2.5 up over the Dodgers. That was the one team I picked. I don't know where the Yankees are at, but they're way down the list.
The Yankees have been playing great
baseball. They have
very good baseball.
Yeah.
I think with the Twins now, they've won 8 in a row.
Yeah.
And I said something on the radio the other day where they had 1 game left against Boston, and they had made up 10.5 games on Boston in the standings in 6 weeks.
And so that's because Boston really stunk up the harbor, but they got a very good baseball team, and so
Yeah, The big question in my mind is, you'll have your 3 division champs. So what's going to happen? Where are the wild card teams going to come from? And it looks like the AL East definitely could have a couple of them.
A couple of them. Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting final month of the season, but I think I'm most shocked about the Dodgers not being in first place.
They're not.
And of course Mookie Betts has been hurt. And other things, not one player makes it all happen, but if the Dodgers get healthy, I still would say they're the pick in the NL.
If there's one person that can do that, it's Mookie Betts, and it's they have to rely on that kind of talent because I mean, that's what they pay for, and it's, you know, it's really kind of a strange situation, which came up. Patrick Russi talked today about football players and baseball players. He says football players, organizations and owners have a tendency to pick their teams solely on what they can afford. And baseball, he says ordinarily, I think baseball, they pay what's a fair wage. He says football, you don't know where you're going to be because these guys don't want to always pay the kind of contracts that you had applied for, and he criticized them quite harshly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the World's Women's Hockey Tournament.
Let's talk about that.
Got started in Calgary on Friday after it being postponed twice already, and the Americans a couple of 3-0 wins. Canada's 2-0. We know that those are the two teams that are going to be there probably for the gold medal at the end. They do get to play this Thursday, kind of a little preview, and then they'll get to probably play again for the championship on the 31st. So we'll see next week when we record the show if that is the case. Yeah,
well, they're going to be fun to watch, and they're scoring a lot of goals, and they have they've pieced together quite a team. You know, vets and rookies alike, and there's NHL Network is showing the games during the day, so I haven't had a chance because, as I mentioned, I was gone all weekend with the fair, and who knows what we'll get to watch this week. But Thursday at 4 o'clock, before the volleyball game for the Broncos, I'm hoping that maybe I'll get to either sit down and watch a period, or maybe put it on my phone a little bit before I have to start working. Well, I tell you, there's I don't want to hit this one too hard, but I saw a sports competition that I had never seen that was 24 hours at Le Mans. Oh, yeah. And I was watching it. I was watching it in a bright sunny afternoon. Of course, it was dark at Le Mans, so you don't really see the cars. You kind of see headlights, and it's dark and headlights going around and around. And I thought, boy, I'm going to have to stay up till dawn to see who wins this thing. And it went again till 9 o'clock in the morning. It was about 12 hours left to go. Sure. But I just couldn't watch the headlights, so I flipped it off. That's interesting, because BIR, Brainerd International Raceway, had the NHRA, and I'll be honest with you, I did not see who won. I really used to love to watch the NHRA. I did. For whatever reason, it just... There's too much other stuff going on in a person's life, and I've always promised myself that I'm going to get to Brainerd one year, go spend a weekend. You know what the bad part about it is? It's always my wife's birthday, and our football season started when we were coaching football. Yeah, that's right. You just didn't miss. You just didn't miss football to go watch drag racing. Was that one sign? Excuse your husband until football season's over, you know, and it's that was exactly, that's all we did. High school sports going to get started up this week. We'll have Bronco volleyball on Thursday. This Thursday. Oh boy, that's in town. That's in town. I'll have her on the radio. We will not be on your live event in KCC TV because we're going to be on your live event for the Bass Championship on Friday and Saturday. So we got to get in and get everything set up, all the cameras up on the posts and everything else. So we'll be a little short of equipment video-wise. But then next week, we're going to have Tuesday swimming, Tuesday volleyball, back-to-back, a doubleheader. Both of those will be on your live event. And then, of course, George and I, next Thursday, we'll have the Bronco football game against Chisholm. First time the two schools have played each other in 45 seasons. 1976? 1976 was the last time they played. And then we'll have LBF football, or I should say North Central. I'm going to screw that up more than once, I'll bet. But we'll have the North Central Stars against Cromwell, Floodwood. And we'll, North Central had a pretty good football team last year. I don't know what they were replacing, but I know that they have somebody in the running back. Your good friend Jack Gilbert will be gone. We'll see if his brother maybe get to take over at the quarterback duties. We'll see how all that plays out. But that's coming up, folks. The seasons get started. So volleyball, and as I mentioned, gets started on Thursday. Girls swimming and diving next Tuesday. Football the following Thursday. And the cross-country kids, they don't have their first meet until the 9th. Boy, they're running all over town. They're all over the place. Girls got a couple of good chances.
if they could find a fifth and a sixth, I think the girls team could be all right. We'll see how that all plays out, but
boy, we have turned out a lot of great female runners here, and I don't know why, but I mean, some of the best ones in the state have come from this town.
Yeah,
and it's there really were some good ones.
Want to mention anything about the Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame?
I do have to mention that just a little bit. This was
I would be shameless plugging if I did.
No, this was really a great one, and it's not because of, I mean, the '57 hockey team. I kind of remembered that a little bit, and when Jimmy Worley was saying that they played some games outside, I remember going to a game outside to see Oscar Malley play, and I remember
he was worth the price of admission, right?
I just remember that I wasn't sure what everybody was doing. I just knew that he was doing it better than everybody else, and so we went and saw that, and then Jeannie Korn, what a remarkable woman, and there's nothing more I can say about her. I know her kids, know her husband. This is a great family, and Ronnie Beck. You know, I've known Ronnie Beck for an awful long time, and I said to him right at the end, we were visiting, I says, Ronnie, I love you, man, you're in the Hall of Fame. I says, but that's Bobby Bateman. and Ronnie says, I know. So that was really a highlight, meeting Mr. Bateman, and I enjoyed that.
We inducted Bob Bateman and Dick LePage, and both those guys graduated in the 50s.
Yes.
So a lot of people, when you say their names, go, who?
Yeah.
Who? But and I'm not, everybody was great. But I thought Ronnie Beck had a couple of great moments in his speech.
He did.
I'm going to share both of them with you. You can watch the entire thing if you go to YouTube and search for KCC TV. The entire induction ceremony, all the speeches are there. But Ronnie shared two things, and the first one was the tearjerker part about the Rosses taking him in when he was 15, when he lost both his parents, and the place puddled up. He had control of the room at that point.
Yes, he did.
He did. But then he shared his knowledge about Dick LePage. And he didn't know this about Dick LePage when he was a kid, but when he got to UMD and he had to go out and do some investigating, because him and Marsh Nelson and, I can't think of the newspaper guy from the Duluth paper, they would get on the bus and they played sports trivia to pass the time on the bus.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't have DVDs and all this other stuff, so what'd you do? And so Ronnie said he had to go into the library, and he started doing some research on sports trivia.
That was the first time he was ever there either, so it's...
So, what did he find out about Dick LePage? Well, Dick LePage was named All-American as a high school quarterback in 1951. There were two other quarterbacks named All-American that same year. I think you may have heard of them before. One of them was Bart Starr. If you haven't heard of Bart Starr, then you probably should stop watching this show. Yeah. You should get online and familiarize yourself with Bart Starr. And the other one was Earl Morrow. Well, those are two of the best quarterbacks.
Most Hall of Famers
in the 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So to think about that Dick LePage was in this company. When people ask me, well, why are you putting Dick LePage in? I would, at the end of that statement, I would say, enough said. I'm not going any further. I'm done talking about why he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So, unfortunately, Dick couldn't be with us as he lives in Winnipeg and couldn't cross the border to be with us. But it was a good night.
Yes. Oh, it was an excellent night. I don't know, what was this one? This 11th one you've done?
This was the ninth one.
Well, I've been to them all, and with the exception of, they were all great. I really enjoyed the first one when Big Frank stood up and gave his speech. I mean, that if you're a Bronco, you melted with that. But Bob Bateman was pretty cool the other night. I'm glad that he.
When you get to talk about your boyhood heroes.
Yes.
Remember, Bob Bateman, the only Bronco to ever play Division I basketball. Pretty cool stuff.
Well, and I had his father in senior economics, and he was not only one of the best teachers I had in high school, he's one of the best teachers I ever had, period.
Sure.
And he not only made you think, but he made you think in a civil fashion, and he would insist upon it. And so I had a lot of respect for him. I knew him. I got a chance to talk to him later in his life as I moved back here and stuff. But his father was something special.
Yeah, great night, and hopefully we'll be able to keep this thing going in the right direction. Well, right now I say we're 8 months away from the next one, so we have our first meeting tonight.
Well, there you are.
To get started for the 10th induction ceremony. Anything else?
No, I'm pretty much filled up, I think, my notes. Yeah. I do have one thing to say here. They talk about the Ohio State game coming up, and they says the Gophers win if they make the assumption the Buckeye starting quarterback, C.J. Stroud, looks like the red-shirted freshman that he is. If you think that he's an All-American, not good. And I'll tell you, we've got Tanner Morgan, we've got Abraham, we've got Danny Falela. We've got a very good football team, and it's a matter whether or not the defense can handle that offensive line of Ohio State, because I don't care what running backs they have. I know they got just a tremendous offensive line, and that's what they'll do. Always do. Anyway, I got it.
Folks,
thank you.
After hiatus, thanks. We'll talk to you next week.
Be safe.